Welcome to Hustle Estate from good old New Jersey and Detroit, Michigan. I'm one of your hosts, Isaac Gilman.
And I'm your other host, Ed Hendrickson.
Week 6, work from home. We had Lewis on last week. A lot of good discussion, a lot of good talk. How are you feeling?
I would say overall I'm feeling pretty good. A little bit of a rough day today, but making it through. I'm trying to gauge whether my rough days are due to lack of coffee or not. I'm not sure if they're correlated, but I had no coffee today and it was a rough day. So we'll see. Tomorrow I won't be having no coffee though. I'm going to get a cup of coffee tomorrow.
Good.
How about you, man? How are you holding up?
Good. I started my boot camp this week.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, 2 days in. It'll be a weekend by the time this is published. It's nice. It's a good change of pace from what I was doing. I am definitely learning a lot. I will continue to learn a lot, I'm sure. You know, the phrase drinking from a fire hose, they've already prefaced that multiple times. And I agree with that.
Is it overwhelming so far? I mean, it was the first hour, your orientation, and then they just started pumping stuff at you guys.
I mean, so we had to do this pre-work, and the pre-work made you learn, if you weren't already familiar, but it made you learn some concepts that are kind of foundational concepts to web development. And a lot of those concepts we're kind of re-going over right now. So it's not most of it's not new information. Most of it's kind of, from when I finished the pre-work, which was around end of February, to now, right? If you didn't touch any of this stuff or if you didn't do that much with it, this is kind of the refresher week. It's here you're gonna learn maybe a few new things, but for the most part, it's just making sure you're up to speed and everybody's kind of on the same playing field. And then next week is gonna get there's gonna be all new stuff I've never learned before. So it's been, none of this is new, but I am learning some new things, things that just I didn't think about when I was doing the pre-work, which all the pre-work was all on my own. So the instructors that are instructing us now, they're basically giving me the answers to what my pre-work would have been, and I just looked back at my pre-work and I was like, damn, I spent a lot of time doing this and it was not that complicated.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, obviously.
Is it live too, by the way?
Yeah, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. 2
live,
instructors.
There's, okay. 2 instructors. How many people?
17.
Okay. So you can ask questions and stuff or not really?
Yeah. It's I don't know what online class is like, if we were in high school or college even. But I assume it's kind of similar to that, where they're going kind of through a lecture, and then but it was cool. Today we did basically a number of us took turns kind of adding to the code base, and others were kind of just if you got stuck, you're hey, I'm not really sure what to write here or what to do here, and then somebody would give you a tip and get you past the stuck part, and you move on. So
pretty cool.
That was cool. Yep.
So do you think that the rate of the information that they're providing you now, do you think you'll be able to keep up with the continued rate of new information once you get past the stuff that you did through the pre-work?
I think yes. I think what we are learning this week is all the foundational stuff. So it's if you get stuck here, you're always going to be behind, versus if you get stuck later on, at least you have the foundation down, so you don't have to worry as much about that. I expect there will be opportunities where I'll need to do extra work. Even today, before we jumped online, I was finishing up a quote unquote lab assignment that's due tomorrow morning. They gave us an hour at the end of the day to kind of work on it. And I had gotten probably 60% of it done, but there was 40% there that I just didn't know, or I was just kind of losing steam. You spend 8 hours online, literally. It's not super flexible. Actually, honestly, I had more flexibility at work when I was working from home than I do here, or at least so far. And so I was just you know what? I want to see Isabel. I'm going to go take a break, get dinner, put her to bed, come back to it, and like within 20 minutes, I like got most of it done.
Yeah.
Right before you called me, I was pretty much like, all right, I'm done, but I need to like just double check a few things. So once we're done with this call, I'm gonna double check a few things and be good. Should be good.
So outside of the 9 to 5, are you getting daily homework assignments?
We will, but like yesterday, no, today, yes. We will, and there will be actual assignments. Like we have labs and then we have assignments. Labs are kind of like just work to do to like improve ourselves, and it's not it's required in the sense that if we didn't do it, our instructors, would be like, this guy never did his work, to a potential employer or something like that. But the assignments, if we don't pass those regularly, we would potentially get kicked out.
Oh, wow. Okay. I was thinking the same. You answered my question.
So yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing, and then I'm gonna build the greatest household estate funding website in the world.
I love it. So what are you supposed to know when this is over?
I would know how to build a website from scratch, but like not just colors and like format and text. It would be like a fully functional website. So basically the website that you had somebody build that would control the process of brokering a deal, for instance, like I could build that.
And how is this going to parlay into your new role?
So it would put me in a position to like do my new role with less questions. I'll still have plenty of questions and I'll need like help here and there. I think the big thing it doesn't prepare you for, or at least I don't anticipate it preparing you for, is like working with an existing code base that's very large. So when working in a bigger technology company, at least your code base can be like very, 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 very big. And what that creates is a learning curve that is extremely high because you just have all this information all over the place. So like one change that you make could ripple across multiple areas without you having any idea because you just don't know. Versus if I built you a website tomorrow, because I'm building it from scratch, I know all the ins and outs. I am the ultimate creator. This puts me in a position to create things from scratch. It'll put me in a position to understand if I get into somebody else that has written code, I can like read it, right? Like if someone wrote a book, but you didn't write it, you can read it. You may not know how they thought about it, but you can at least read it and understand what they were doing or what they were writing. I can do that, and then I can begin to ask questions, or I can begin to manipulate or add to the best of my ability. Yeah, I mean, I think.
But we're not talking about you working on the website of the company when this is over. We're talking more about this is going to make you efficient in understanding code, and you might be working with a different kind of code. Like, are you going to be in database like SQL, something like that more, or the same Java, whatever the website's made out of?
I will be able to work on my company's website because we do have a web application. So like,
but you're not doing this to be their like web designer.
No, I'm not a web designer per se. So like, okay, so I guess let me try to break out separation of duties. So like you might have a designer, somebody that makes things look really, really nice, but they can't turn that nice piece into functional web code, right? So you might create a logo. Let's use a logo as an example. I'm not the ones creating the logo. Logo is created by a designer, a web designer even. I am putting that logo onto the website in a place that we all agree on. But that logo, maybe if you click that logo, something happens. Maybe you click that logo and it takes you to, I don't know, takes you to another page. I'm the one that's going to write the logic that will allow you to go to that next page. The web designer wouldn't do that. Alternatively, or like another way to think about it is, let's say, I go to log in and log out of a website. When you click the logout button, something is going on in the background that literally logs you out of that website. Mm-hmm. A web designer might say, here's where I want placements of things, and then I might go place those things and build the logic that logs you in and logs you out of a website. And I can go further into that, but so in terms of like database, yeah, I need to know those things. Will I be manipulating the database on a regular basis? No.
But
We
you should know
have
how to
like
pull from
we
it.
have like database experts that do that. Well, yeah, exactly. So I need to know how to interact with the database. So I need to know how to take information out of a database and use it. So if I need to display information on a website, I need to probably grab that from a database. Alternatively, if I need to be able to accept information from a website, so like an input. So let's say you write a paragraph, you take a survey, right? And you text in the survey, like, I really hate my coworker Isaac, he's the worst, and then you hit submit. That text information goes to a database most likely, and it's not like a click button, go directly to the database. There might be some logic there that it goes to a database eventually, but it might do some things beforehand. I would be building out that logic and then sending it to the database. But like database design, how the database actually like works and operates, usually we have experts doing that. I just need to know some of the basics.
It's pretty cool.
And then over time, maybe I can learn more and more and more about those things and be a little bit more self-sufficient in areas that if we didn't have an expert, like, right, so you think about startup companies or like a lot of entrepreneurs, they do something called like bootstrapping, which is where they basically have they have a very finite amount of time, money, people. So what you might call resources, right? But people are people, money is money, and time is time. And so you might get a web engineer or developer that has to do the database design because you can't pay an expert to do that. You just don't have you don't have the money to do that, or maybe you just don't have the people to do that. And maybe that web person needs to do the design work too, right? Maybe they know enough in like Adobe Illustrator or something that they can, they're not amazing at it, but they can do it enough to get by, right? Just like you don't do all of your, so we've talked about like mowing the grass, right? Like, is that something that's valuable to do? If you're starting out a company, maybe at first, but eventually you pay somebody to do that, right? Like,
right.
Not like an expert grass cutter, but like maybe you get a landscaping company that works on all of your properties. And same with me, like maybe you hire me to do a little bit of work, and then maybe you hire another of me or two of me, three of me, four of me, or an expert.
Oh God.
Right? Yeah, no. But right, like you might have a general contractor, but then you have a plumber. Right. And if your plumber is your database expert, a general contractor knows his way out around like fixing clogs, fixing, maybe like repairing an old pipe, but maybe they don't know enough about like gas. And
I love general contractors, by the way, for that reason. Like, I was talking to my general contractor one day, and it's like this automatic door shut. It's like one of those big, like the commercial ones that you would see, not just like, say, have them on the hinges, like the normal hinge, and then they have the big ones. And mine was loose, and I just said to him, I was like, "Do you know how to fix that?" He was like, "Nah, I've never done it before, but I'll figure it out." Like, that's a general contractor to me. It's just like, they're a good general contractor, I'd say a really good general contractor, right? He's kind of like engineer-ish, like I can figure things out type of thing. Yes, he can hang sheetrock, whatever, but like he can figure stuff out. He knows a little bit about electric, like you said, a little bit about plumbing. But if you were to say to your plumber anything that was outside of plumbing, they'd be like, "Nah, bro, not my spot." So I like your analogy there. For the
eventually,
general contractors.
Like, a lot of software engineers at least have a few paths to take. They can go pretty general. They can learn a few different languages. They can stay in a specific like area of technology, maybe like in the real estate industry, for instance. But then there's another path of like deep expertise where you become a master of, like there's a few languages within web development that's like very popular, and that's what I'm learning right now. And like maybe you just stay in those languages and you never go outside, like the plumber, right? But you get paid, or you are asked to do like some really, really difficult things because you have a deeper level of expertise than, let's say, somebody that's more of a generalist.
Mm-hmm.
But that generalist has more tools in their tool belt. And so companies pay for the need, like whatever their needs are, when sometimes they just need contractual obligations, like an expert to like come in, design the database and leave and just give me the manual, right? Have someone else take it from me. Vice versa, like hire them full time and like always be there.
I'm reading a book right now, The Hard Thing About Hard Things, and he kind of talks about that. Like the CEO that gets you started in your 5-person startup or your 1-person startup is absolutely never going to be qualified to be the CEO of your 5,000 person company. So it's kind of interesting. You can bring a generalist then to start doing things, but eventually when they get more serious, you need the expert. You still probably need the generalist because there's what I don't know what you guys call it, and but kind of like a translator at some point, right? There's someone who can go into the room and speak to somebody and understand what they're looking for. They get enough technology and they get enough business that they can come to work and then tell that specialist what they're supposed to do, because otherwise they would not understand. Like, so kind of like a internal relationship manager in some sense.
Yeah, and I think like my overall trajectory so far has been very generalist. I've spent a number of years kind of doing like project management, leadership, those type of things, and now I'm trying to get more technical to just be more able to not lead technical people, but like I've one of my biggest areas that I see as like an opportunity is a disconnect between how an engineer's life actually operates in the work versus how like your CEO wants your company to operate. Like something that really bothers me is when somebody says like, well, you just didn't plan it correctly, or you didn't like, why did you, this is something else that rubs me the wrong way, why didn't you like estimate it correctly, right? Like I guess the more I thought about this, because it is something that has happened a bunch, and I doubt I'm the only one that has had this happen to, but the more I think about it is like, how often do you give a contractor, like let's say you want to redo your kitchen, let's just keep it really simple. How long do you want to, you want to redo your kitchen, you want like granite countertops, you want maybe new cabinets, whatever. Like how often does a contractor come back and say, yeah, it's going to take 3 weeks, and it takes exactly 3 weeks? Like my guess is it doesn't exactly. My guess is it doesn't happen very often, right? There's delays all over the place. And I'm sure, there are ways to improve that, but engineering is the exact same. And so one of my things is like, I need to understand why are we either A, bad at estimating, or B, how do we better understand that this is not an unusual thing, and how do we improve it? And that's like ultimately, like I would like to solve those problems.
Be interested in knowing any portion of that is somebody underestimating, or I guess are you overestimating in this case? But anyway, they're giving a shorter time period to keep that C-level guy happy at the end of the day, even though they know it's going to take longer.
It's so what's fun. What's crazy to me is that I have never, only like a handful of times in the last 5 years have I heard a more seniored leader really like question a timeline. Mm-hmm. Generally speaking, and actually this is one of the good things about the company I work for, is like if you give them a timeline, they don't really second guess it. What they do then expect is that you hit that timeline.
Hit the time.
Because they trust that you're the expert. Yeah. They trust that you're the expert too. And so here's my problem. I don't understand why do people are so confident in the timelines they give when, I don't know what the statistics are. Maybe that's something I need to measure, but like, let's say 50% of the time you hit that timeline. Like why can't you just be okay with saying, you know what? It's probably going to take us like 6 weeks, not 4 weeks. Like, let's just be honest with ourselves. But then there's this whole other
senior management that is completely on board with that.
Right. But then there's this whole other area. There's another, I don't know if it's a real theory. I don't know if it's like an academic theory of, if I give you 2 months to do something, you will take 2 months to do something. If I give you 1 week to do something, right? Like if I give you the same task and I give you a week to do it, and then a year later I give you the same exact task, I give you 2 weeks to do it, you're going to take the entire 2 weeks, and you're going to take the entire 1 week. Like people find ways to fill that time. And so that's why like it's like this give and take, and it's kind of like it's frustrating to me. Because it's just like get it done. Actually, one company that I read about, they had a really good idea, which was, or I think it's a really good idea. They basically scope their projects out in weeks. So they say, all right, you want to do this thing? Here's how many weeks you get. Do the best you can in 3 weeks, or 4 weeks, or whatever it is. We will then push that, whatever it is, to production. If it gets used, great. Then we will do more work on it. If it doesn't get used, at least we only spent 4 weeks doing it, and we're going to move on to the next thing.
Interesting.
It is interesting.
I like that. It's a little fired up here in the end.
Yeah. Oh, that stuff pisses me off. So, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, let's do this. Thank you, everybody, for listening here today. We really appreciate it. As you know, you can check us out on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and iTunes. If you want to email us at hustleestate1@gmail.com. And on our social media platforms, we're on Twitter and Instagram @hustleestate. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.